Hey guys, it's Richie. Make sure you watch this video all the way through for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to come hang out with me and Shanda and Adam. It's going to be an awesome event. Just make sure you like, comment, and share for your chance to win.
On today's episode, we have recovery influencer and advocate Richie Webber here to tell us some of his story, talk about the keys to living an amazing life in recovery, and a few upcoming launches in our partnership that we are going to share with you today. I am Adam Vibe Gunton, and this is the Recovered on Purpose show.
The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose.
Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. Recovered on Purpose was founded with the vision of raising up an army of recovered addicts to tell their stories in powerful and impactful ways that will free others suffering from the bondage of addiction, as well as share their stories in the school system to deter the future generations from going down the path of addiction. If you are an addict in recovery and want to become part of this movement or possibly be interviewed for the show, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me a little bit about yourself. Richie, let's get right into it, brother. You have done a lot of amazing things in your recovery. You've been on 60 Days In. You've personally helped over 1,000 people get into treatment and have gained a following on multiple platforms with over 350,000 people. Give me a little bit of your backstory before all this stuff in recovery was going on.
So before recovery, right?
Yeah. some of the war. Yeah.
Addiction. Before addiction or during addiction?
Let's go during the addiction. Let's talk about some of the stuff that only addicts really understand. So the people that are watching this know that to get to the point that you're at, they can come from anywhere. Because I've heard your story, and I know that it shows that you can come from anywhere and go anywhere beyond your wildest dreams. So let's get into that for him.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I was using drugs, pretty much everything, but heroin was like my main drug of choice. I was shooting heroin, crack at the same time. Through that time, I spent about 2 years on and off, in and out of jails, and overdosed multiple different times. My mom actually had to save my life, my last 2 overdoses that I had. And the very last overdose that I had, I'll never forget. I did the shot, I hit the floor, and then I woke up and there was, cops all over me. I'm spitting blood everywhere. It was awful. And my mom had to see all of it.
Wow. Well, I had a similar experience with an overdose where I just shot up. I thought that it was bunk basically. And then just next thing I knew, I was waking up next to my rental car in a pile of glass. So I get that for sure. So tell us a little bit about, about your history. I know you were a football player. I was also a football player. So tell us where you come from.
I'm from a small town called Clyde, Ohio. Growing up, I was an All-American kid. I won a state title in track. I played football, scored in the 99th percentile in the ACT for writing and reading. I was a good kid. Then I broke my arm and got prescribed Percocets, and I turned into a totally different person.
Wow. So tell me about that. How old were you when you broke your arm and got those?
I was 16 going on 17. It was my junior year of high school.
Wow. And how did that lead into your addiction? You got prescribed Percocet, obviously. How did it go from taking those that were prescribed to you and how they were supposed to be prescribed and taken? How did it go and continue to grow into this heroin addiction?
So I always tell people that right off the bat, even in the dosages that were prescribed to me, like it got me super high. Like it gave me a feeling I had never known in my life, like a feeling that I felt like I'd always wanted but didn't know exist. I compared it to like meeting God, and at that time, like that was my God was these drugs, right? And I broke my arm. My girlfriend just broke up with me. I wasn't able to hang out with the football team. I got in trouble for going ghost hunting, so I was kind of ostracized and pushed aside. And I'd take these pills that once every couple hours. It'd just be one Percocet, and everything would be okay again. And I started smoking pot with it and everything else, and just kept using. I think about 6 months into my addiction, I actually started snorting them for the first time. Until then, I took them exactly as prescribed, but they kept giving me new scripts month after month if I asked.
Yeah. And how did you learn about snorting them?
There was a couple of my friends that did it. They said, "Oh, you need to try and snort these. It hits you harder." And I didn't do it for the first, almost 6 months. I'd seen them do it a couple times, but it wasn't my thing. And I finally gave in. I was like, all right, fine. I'll give it a try.
Yeah. And that's part of my story also. And that's one of the main messages that I give to parents and high school age kids is you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And sometimes it's hard to realize the kind of influences that are in our lives at that moment and at that age. But I think it's really important for parents to actually notice who their kids are watching out or hanging out with. But tell me about, so basically you're taking Percocet as prescribed, and you keep getting the prescription, and then you start snorting them. So how does it lead into, because obviously you weren't getting heroin legally, so how does it go from getting them prescribed and moving with them, and then you start snorting them? How does it move into this kind of full-fledged addiction?
Yeah, at first I didn't know that it was like a problem. I thought that these were pills that were given by your doctor. I didn't know that addiction was like a thing that could happen to me, right? And I think it was about a year in, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and that I started to notice when I didn't have the pills. I'd party with them for a weekend. I'd do them every day, and then I'd not do them for a couple days, and then eventually it was like, Monday and Tuesday were rough. I'm in college at this time. I'm trying to go to class. I'm trying to get going. I'm like, man, I'm really dragging ass. And it got to the point too where like I was like, that saying, like living for the weekend, right? Like I was living for the weekend literally because I knew that's when I was going to do pills, and that was like the only thing I looked forward to, because how me and my friends partied. And this, granted, like keep in mind, like when I was in high school and in college, we were partying with football players, cheerleaders, honor roll students, kids that have bright futures. Yeah. And we're snorting pills in the corner, and nobody's really batting an eye. It's not something that everyone did, but I compare it to like how probably, going to a party in the 90s was with like weed. It's just something some people did, some people didn't. It wasn't like a huge, oh my God, what are you doing with that pill over?
Right.
It was just something some of us did.
Right. And I get that. I don't know if I ever, I kind of had the experience of hiding it from everyone. That was just my experience growing up. I remember like I had little trinkets in my room that I just hid drugs in. And I remember doing, like, because I started like parachuting them. You remember parachuting them, where you like crush them up and then like put them in like a coffee filter or something, and then swallow them to get them to go faster. Yeah. And basically my question is, when you're going from like taking pills on the weekend and partying and everything's cool, everybody's like okay with it and everything. What was the final straw? And when you started to when you realized that you are going into using heroin, what was that moment where you're like, I'm going to use heroin now?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It was like a progression, it was a progression. Like I believe that I had tried shooting. I think that I tried shooting some of the pills first before I turned to heroin. And that's when I really started to get desperate, like when I made that choice to shoot up. And again, it wasn't just like an out of nowhere thing. It was like I was really sick, snorting the pills. I was literally having to do 4 or 5 30s at a time, and it was costing me upwards of $100 just to catch a buzz, right? Every single time I wanted to catch a buzz, it was costing me $60, $90, $100 to not be sick for the day, right? So where it eventually went was like, I couldn't afford it anymore. Like I could only sell so much weed for a while, so I couldn't afford it anymore. And I was like, I couldn't find any pills that day. I believe I was running out of money, and somebody was like, hey, I got some heroin. I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it. And I had to have somebody do it for me, because to this day I'm terrified of needles. Hated shooting up, but I had somebody do it for me, and I was that desperate. I put a needle in my arms, and like I said, to this day I still hate needles. I still can't stand getting my blood taken. I'm a big baby about it.
Wow. And I know, so you got sober like young. You got sober young. So how long was your heroin addiction, and how quickly did it progress to ODing in your bathroom and falling out on the floor and waking up with paramedics and stuff around you? How long did it take from going to from Percocets to the Blue Monsters, obviously, because I know you're talking about those if you're talking about the 30s, to shooting up the heroin the first time, to the point where you had hit rock bottom on the floor of your bathroom?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think the first couple years were, mostly doing the pills for a long time. There was quite a few years where it was just pills after pills. I was getting shipments of pills, allegedly, like containers of like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 containers like this of Percocet 5 milligrams, and I'd get them for $1.50, $2 a pop. At the time, you could sell them anywhere from $5 to $7 a piece. You could sell 100 to somebody for $500, and I was able to live off that for a while, but eventually it got to the point again where like those 5 milligram Percocets with all the Tylenol, my nose could not hold that much powder, like even to not be sick. It was like I was physically sick trying to do it. I will say this about the progression is that when I did finally make that jump to heroin, looking back, it's surprising like how quickly my life just fell apart. Like it was already on the downhill. But when I was doing the pills before I was shooting them, I could somewhat maintain a money-making lifestyle, not a legal lifestyle. I was selling like stocks and stuff like that, which I guess was legal. I was selling stocks, I was selling weed, I was hustling with pills and stuff like that. But when I went to the heroin, it's like I didn't have motivation to do anything except heroin anymore. I didn't have the motivation to go and trade stocks. I didn't have the motivation to go out and sell a bunch of weed or anything. And I just drained all my money at that point, all my energy and honestly my soul, really.
Yeah. And that was my experience also when because I started on pills. I started on Percocet, and then it moved up to Oxycontin. And when I was 19, I was prescribed 250 milligrams of Oxycontin a day, which is just crazy. I don't know how that's even legal. But basically, I remember when I first started doing heroin, I had this enormous friend group. Everybody loved me, and I loved everybody. I had really good experiences. We had house parties and all kinds of stuff, and all these people would come over. Everybody was doing great things. And then, man, I remember when I first really got caught by my entire friend group, and my roommates had gone into my room and searched it because they wanted to find out what was going on. And then I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the house. I got kicked out of the friend group. And it was like, to this day, that's one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, because since then I basically wasn't able to cultivate these friendships, cultivate these relationships, because I thought of myself as this horrible, disgusting, low-life drug addict that nobody could possibly love. And I guess, and it happened so quickly. And then as soon as that happened, I remember like within like 3 or 4 months, dude, of shooting up heroin, I was shooting up heroin trying to OD, trying to kill myself. Like I remember how quickly these drugs can progress from okay, I'm partying on the weekends to I'm shooting up to die. Did you ever have an experience where you were like shooting up and like you didn't want to come out of it?
Yeah, for sure, man. Especially what I always tell people too is like towards the end of my run, it was like when I would shoot up, I would do this ridiculous amount of heroin, and it's by the grace of God that I didn't die. And there was a lot of times I remember waking up on my floor, and I'm pretty sure I overdosed. I just happened to wake up. I didn't get hit with Narcan. I just woke up. I did my first shot. I'd wake up at 11 o'clock, do my first shot, like 0.5 gram shots of dope. And it wasn't bad dope either. Just my tolerance was so ridiculously high at this point. I was spending hundreds of dollars every day on heroin at this point. Yeah. And I did not care if I lived or died. Like I was so miserable. Like I remember my room, my mom would walk into my room and I would normally keep it locked. But like sometimes like I'd come back and she had broken and cleaned it. And I just felt awful because my room, it was disgusting. It was like literally hundreds of syringes all around the room. Oh my gosh. And I would reuse some of them. I'd try to make sure that I didn't share needles with anybody, but sometimes I'd reuse my own syringes. So I wouldn't throw them away because I always had that what if of like, well, what if I can't get syringes or whatever else? So there just would be hundreds of syringes all over the place and plates of food and bottles that I had pissed in because I was so sick or so high that I didn't want to walk that 10 steps down the hall to go to the freaking bathroom. And, bowls just filled with like melted ice cream and cookies because that was the only thing I could bring myself to eat. And that's where I kept my weight up just a little bit, was like I'd eat like once a day and it was like a bowl of ice cream and cookies. Like, wow, it was just crazy. Like if you could picture, like I wish I had a picture of what my room looked like then to just show like how far down I was. But at the end, man, it was really bad. Yeah.
And I had the same experience. I literally had a bowl on my coffee table of a bunch of my own syringes. And I remember one time I actually wrote a like, and to this day I am so embarrassed that my suicide note was so short and stupid and horrible. Like I'm grateful that I didn't die because it would have been the worst thing to leave behind. And then I shot up and I woke up in the morning like you. next to the couch and like kind of rolled up, and my arm was dead. And I remember waking up and screaming at God in that apartment. And guys, I know we've been talking about some dark stuff, but this is basically to let you know that we get the opiate addiction. If you're struggling right now, after break, we are going to be talking about how Richie got into recovery, how he got recovered, and a lot of the amazing stuff that he's been doing, as well as the things that we have going on together coming up. So guys, we will be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. Hey, if you're an addict in recovery and you think your story would fit well with this show, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me a little bit about yourself. Guys, and again, remember, watch this to the end, like, comment, and share if you want a chance for an all expenses paid trip to come hang out with Shanda Lynn, Richie Webber, and myself. Back to the show. All right, guys, welcome back to the Recovered on Purpose show. We are here with Richie Weber, and obviously right before this break, we were talking about some of the war stories of addiction, and the reason why we always make sure to do that in our stories, especially when we're sharing them with people in recovery or in addictions, to show you that we really get the point of addiction. We get what it's like to be stuck in that hell of addiction. And the reason why we have to start that is because we're about to start talking about the amazing things that have been going on in Richie's life, what he's done in recovery, and show you that when you recover, anything in your life is possible. Anything is possible. So Richie, what was it that you actually did at the end that got you to a point where you were able to find recovery, and how did you recover?
So I got to answer that question in two parts.
All right, I'll give you two parts.
The first part is that there was a lot of times that I was desperate enough to seek help, and that I wanted to change more than anything. I wanted to get clean more than anything, and I tried to detox on my mom's couch more times than I can count. I tried a million different methods and ways of getting clean. I would go to jail and be in jail for 6-7 months, get out, want to stay clean, and just nothing was working. Nothing would stick, and that balanced out to quite a few different things. And one is that I didn't know that there was help out there. There was no Recovered on Purpose show. There was no Richie Weber. There was no Shanda Lynn. There was nobody on social media talking about how you get clean, what you do to get clean. I didn't know that my mom's insurance could pay for me to go to a beautiful rehab in Florida. I thought that was for celebrities. I thought that was for rich people. So one thing that I do today, as you know, Adam, is I try and help as many people as possible, that if they're struggling, they can message me. I can get them resources, because honestly, I would have gotten clean a year or two sooner than I did if I would have known that kind of help was out there, because I had the willingness. I just did not have the means to do it. Right.
Yeah.
What finally changed for me, though, where, despite the lack of resources, despite the lack of help, the lack of detox, the lack of rehab, all that stuff was like a perfect symphony of situations that were orchestrated by God. Amen. Quite honestly, yeah. I had to turn myself into jail, and my mom finally stopped enabling me. She said, Richie, if you don't turn yourself into jail, because she was going to have to pay like $5,000 for a signature bond if I didn't. She said, if you don't turn yourself into jail, you're not living here. I'm not giving you money. I'm not giving you food. I'm making sure your grandma doesn't give you money or food or anything. You're turning yourself into jail. So I went to jail. I turned myself in, and I was in there for a couple days, and I knew she was serious. And she came to visit me a couple days later, and she told me that one of my friends had overdosed and died the day that I turned myself into jail. And it was somebody I grew up with. We played Little League together. I'd known the kids since we were in 4th grade, and it was just really real. That was like the first person I was like really like close to that had passed away from this. And God just literally like opened up my heart. Like he unfroze my heart for me. And I looked at my mom, and she's crying, and she said, I thought about how that could have been you so many different times. Thought about how that could have been you dead on my bathroom floor. And like this woman had given me CPR 2 different times, like as I'm dead on her floor. Right. And just something about seeing her tears and that pain, and knowing I was in jail for the 10th time, and knowing I pissed away a college track scholarship, and knowing that like I was just miserable. I was just so tired of it. It gave me that desperation that I needed. That after that visit, dude, I went to my jail cell. I dropped down on my knees, and I said the prayer that I think most of us have said at some point, except I freaking meant it this time. Like with my whole body, I meant this prayer. I said, God, please take this away from me. I don't want to get high. Make sure I never get high again. Please take this away from me. I'll do whatever it takes. And like I felt the Holy Spirit come over me. I felt something change, and I knew things were going to be okay. Yeah. And that was what opened the door for me to stay clean. Here it is. I just recently celebrated 6 years.
That's amazing. And I just got chills as you told that story, because I have a sponsee that he actually watched the show we did last night or the night before, and he just went on his first ever trip outside of Colorado, his first ever airplane ride, and his first ever time seeing the ocean. And I told him, make sure when you go down to the ocean that you go down there alone, you sit to where the waves are just not touching you, and you close your eyes and breathe and know that God is with you. And he hit me up and he was in tears, bro. He was like, dude, I just got it. Everything's going to be okay. And as you said that, that's exactly the feeling that I get, that I got at the beginning. And guys, if you're out there and you're struggling, reach out. There's so many ways. I personally didn't go to treatment. Richie's helped. Like, if you watch his page, you can see a whole bunch of different stories before and after, pictures and stuff of people that went to treatment and got sober. Guys, there's so many ways to do it. And the best feeling that I've ever had is obviously the connection with God. But with that is this feeling of no matter what, everything's going to be okay. And with that feeling, check it out. Richie, tell us some of the things that you've done in recovery. Tell us about the show that you were on, 60 Days In, what it was like filming that, and tell us about some of the stories that you've helped people into treatment and out of.
Yeah, man, it's been a whirlwind, and God has blessed me in ways and given me opportunities that I never thought were possible. And I was talking to my sponsor about this the other day, is that sometimes, when someone asks me, like, tell me what you've done now in recovery, right? Like, sometimes I feel weird because, like, I don't want to, like, be full of myself. I want to stay humble, but, like, God has just done so many things that when I say it out loud, like, I can't even believe that it's true, honestly.
Yeah.
So I've done everything from, I started my own nonprofit. I started doing mixed martial arts. I went 4-1. I was fighting in front of crowds of hundreds of people, telling them my story of addiction, my story of recovery. I've met with senators, sat on panels with judges and lawyers and doctors talking about the opiate epidemic, traveled all across the country, spoke at hundreds of different schools, telling my story, trying to help others. I recently was on a show called 60 Days In on A&E. That was a crazy experience. Lots of crazy stuff happened on that show. I've been able to help literally thousands of different people directly, like find rehab treatment. My Facebook, we reach 20+ million people a month, and we get several hundred messages each month. And I always do the best I can to help them and to point them in the right direction. And we've got these meetings too, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8. On my page, recovery meetings, and it's been incredible to see so many people just grow and get sober and help others.
And guys, I do want to point out that is 8 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Mountain time, and it's an amazing meeting. That's actually the one that him and I did, where I was able to kind of meet his group. There was at one point about 200 people on live. It's a great meeting, and it's not the same as doing the AA and the CA and the NAs and stuff. It's more so just addicts helping addicts. So if you have any issues with fellowships or anything, or if you just want to see something else going on, check those meetings out. 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at his page, Richie Weber. And bro, I do want to talk a little bit about what we have going on. So I know right now you actually are filming, and you have been filming a documentary for the past few months now, and it's coming to a close. That's actually why by the time this airs, we actually filmed in Pennsylvania for this documentary. So I know we can't disclose too much about it, but why don't you tell them about why it is that you're doing this documentary?
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't even think to mention the documentary, and that's just another example of like how much God has blessed me, that like when someone asks me like, so what's going on today? I'm like, well, where do I start?
Right.
Right. Like literally.
And it's all because you got recovered. You worked on your recovery, you got recovered, you got off drugs, and then things happened, guys. And as you hear him talking about this, as you're watching this, if you're thinking that this isn't possible for you, or this kind of life isn't possible for you, guys, in 3 years ago, I was homeless and shooting up dope. Like, it's possible. You watching this. All right, tell us about the documentary.
Absolutely, man. No, I can't agree more, man. It's
yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, I was in jail.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy to see how things have turned out. But no, I wanted to do this documentary because there's certain things that are going on in the addiction recovery world that just aren't right, that need addressed. You know, things are happening that are getting people killed. Things are happening that are keeping people addicted. And that's what this documentary is all about, is exposing the stuff, bringing it to light, and raising awareness. And, you know, Adam, I've told you a little bit about it. Of course, we can't discuss details, but I think you can speak firsthand on like how powerful this documentary is going to be and some of the doors that it's going to open.
Yeah, obviously I wouldn't be a Patreon. You know, I'm donating to the documentary. I'm in the documentary. I'm one of the sponsors of the documentary. Recovered on Purpose is part of it because we're behind it. It's something that needs to be addressed. And obviously I wish I could tell you guys what it is, but I'm excited to drop it. And yeah. So Richie, now we're going to get into a little bit about why you are coming out here in December. Obviously, this is an event put on by Recovered on Purpose, but actually Richie and Shandalyn are both coming out to Denver to Recovered on Purpose headquarters because we have an event on December 12th called Secret Santa for the Homeless. And by the time this airs, we actually will be accepting donations for presents that you would have wanted to get when you were out there homeless and you didn't have anybody to give you Christmas presents. So by this time, go ahead and go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and hit me up so I can send you the address for sending any gifts or presents that you want to give to the homeless. So basically what we're doing is we have a crew of people. We're partnered with Mattersville, which is they house veterans at a wolf sanctuary down south. And Drew's a really good friend of mine. And basically he's coming up. He's been doing stockings for the homeless every year. And then we have Travis that's coming in from Impact Locally. It's the first ever store that is for the homeless. Basically, he gets a whole bunch of clothes and stuff donated to his store. And then the homeless are actually able to come in and shop for an entire outfit of clothes with dignity and obviously completely for free. So we have partnered up, us three have partnered up on an event called Secret Santa for the Homeless, where we're holding dinner here. And actually, if you're watching this, you know what? If you like, comment, share this, and you comment below, I want to come. I will pick 2 people that watch this show. And if you're out of the state and you get selected, I will actually fly you in for this event. This just came out right now. So if you share, like, and comment on this, I want to come. We will get you here. So guys, this event, we're going to be meeting up here, having dinner and wrapping presents, and then we're going to go out into the streets of Denver and make sure every single homeless person that is out there is going to have a Christmas this year. So guys, with that, Richie, do you have any words for them before we go that you want them to know if they're struggling or in recovery? For those 2 people, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I just want people to know that, like, I was recently reminded of this when I did the show, because I was like firsthand, like around people using drugs, getting high, drug dealers, all that stuff when I did the show. And I was reminded of like that desperation that you feel when you're in active addiction, like the feeling that you can't get out no matter how hard you try, that you're stuck there, that you're always going to like be living in literal hell. And sometimes that's how earth is. It's your perspective, what you're doing. Like you're either living in hell or you're living in heaven. But I want people to know that there is another side of this world here where there is like heaven on earth, that there's such good things in this world if you look for it, if you manifest it, if you connect with God, if you trust in God. And it starts with just reaching out. Like if anything that me and Adam said tonight resonated with you, please reach out to us so we can get you some help. Yeah. Take it one step at a time, trust in God, and your life can transform in ways that you never imagined possible. We're both living proof of it.
Yes. Richie, I just want to tell you, man, I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to bless us with this, and I can't wait to see you in PA and back here for the Secret Santa for the Homeless event. Guys, we are so grateful that you were here with us. Again, like, comment, share this video. We want to get this message of hope out to as many people as possible. We love you so much. We'll see you soon.